All right, I am officially recorded. Oh, also, I got a notification today. Today, um, someone commented. Someone commented on my first Maybird video. Um, hold on. Pumpkin is my favorite character too. Oh, they commented again. But the first one was from two different people actually. Okay, so the first one, um, I know I'm so happy too. I'm so happy. Um, was 13th Angel. I see you. I'm. They said this was the book that got me into reading, but I could only find the first book when I was younger. I'm so excited to hear it. And I'm like, oh, thank you so much. And then fucking another person commented on my thing that I didn't realize until just now. Uh, I think she also commented on my other one. I think. Wait. Oh yeah, the one that said, this video exists. Me looking for someone with the same interest. It's free real estate. She commented again. She commented on, this book is so amazing and your reading is amazing. I don't know if you took that as a compliment or if you think I'm weird. Also, uh which is your favorite character? Mine's Pumpkin. I'm like, mine is also Pumpkin. God, thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, but just makes me so happy, full of glee. Okay, but yes, we shall get on with the reading for today, which is about the Bible. The Bible. Oh, I'm just so giddy. All right, so part two. Part two of this is the flood to the deliverance from Egypt. Only 8 people survived the flood, but in time they increased to many thousands. Hold on. Yeah. Only 8 people survived the flood, but in time they increased to number many thousands. Then, three 352 years later after the flood, Abraham was born. We learn how God kept his promise by giving Abraham a son named Isaac. Then of Isaac's two sons, Jacob was chosen by God. Jacob had a big family of 12 sons and some daughters. Jacob's 10 sons hated their younger brother Joseph and sold him into slavery in Egypt. Later, Joseph became an important ruler of Egypt. When a bad famine came, Joseph tested his brothers to see whether they had a change of heart. Finally, Jacob's whole family, the Israelites, moved to Egypt. This happened 290 years after Abraham was born. For the next 215 years, the Israelites lived in Egypt. After Joseph died, they became slaves there. In time, Moses was born, and God used him to deliver the Israelites from Egypt. And in all, 857 years of history are covered in part 2. I love that information. Just like, I don't know, something about it. Also, they're freeing your people, Chandler. Also, my boyfriend is Jewish, so he's gonna like this. Part 2 delivered two of the greatest movies in animation history. Joseph, King of Dreams, and what's the other one? I forget the name. Do you remember the other name of the? There's Joseph, King of Dreams, and there was the other one. I forget the name. Prince of Egypt, the much more famous one. I think they're both pretty good. I think I grew up watching more of the Prince of Dreams one, or King of Dreams. Sorry. All right, but let's get on to chapter 11. Yeah, that is true. I think. Yeah, I think the Prince of Egypt was like definitely better. I think it was the first one to release, right? I'm pretty sure. Anyway, you can look it up. Oh, I'm red. Oh, I looked at my voice connection and it looked like it was red, but now it's back to normal. Anyway, I should start reading because I want to finish anime and talk and stuff. But I'm gonna finish part 2. I am determined to finish part 2 because that's the way I want to do this book. Because it's in parts. Alright, the first rainbow. Do you know the first thing Noah did when he and his family came out of the ark? He made an offering or a gift to God. You can see him doing this in the picture below. Noah offered this gift of animals to thank God for saving his family from the great flood. Do you think Jehovah was pleased with the gift? Yes, he was. And so he promised Noah that he would never destroy the world again by a flood. Soon the land was all dried off, and Noah and his family began a new life outside the ark. God blessed them and told them, "You must have many children. You must increase the numbers in numbers until people live all over the earth. You must increase in numbers until people live all over the earth." But later, when people would hear about the great flood, they might be afraid that a flood like that would happen again. So God gave something that would remind people of His promise. Never that would remind people of His promise to never to flood the whole earth again. Do you know what He gave? Do you know what He gave to remind them? It was a rainbow. The rainbow is often seen in the sky when the sun shines after it has rained. Rainbows have many beautiful colors. Have you ever seen one? Do you see the one in the picture? This is what God said. I promise that never again will all people and animals be destroyed by a flood. I am putting my rainbow in the clouds, and when the rainbow appears, I will see it and remember this promise of mine. Like he needs something to remember a promise that he made, not to flood the goddamn world. Like, oh, I need a reminder not to flood these people again. Oh, I'll just get a pretty little thing. Yeah, sounds good. Sounds right. Sounds like a god. Sounds like I don't know. That's so nice of him, right? He'll do fire and plague instead. I mean, he's already doing it with plague. I wonder what he's gonna give us to promise us he's never gonna do that again. Man, COVID sucks. Um, I am putting my rainbows in the clouds, and when the rainbow appears, I will see it and remember this promise of mine. So when you say a rainbow, what should it remind you of? Yes, God's promise that He will never destroy the world again by a great flood. Specifically, not by a great flood. But everything else, you guys can go fuck yourselves. Basically, is what he's saying then and now. Okay, chapter 12. Men build a big tower. Many years passed. Noah's sons had lots of children, and their children grew up and had more children. Soon, there were many people on earth. One of these persons was a great grandson of Noah named Nimrod. He was a bad man who hunted and killed both animals and men. Nimrod also made himself a king to rule over other people. God did not like Nimrod. All the people that at the time spoke one yeah, all the people at the time spoke one language. Nimrod wanted to keep them all together so that he could rule them. So do you know what he did? He told the people to build a big city and a big tower in it. See them in the picture making bricks? And yeah, it's just a bunch of people slaving away, and there's like a big like pyramid-like tower building thing. He told the people to build a city and a big tower in it. See them in the picture making bricks? Jehovah God was not pleased with this building. God wanted the people to move out and live all over the earth. But the people said, "Come on, let's build a city and a tower so high that its top will reach into the heavens. Then we will be famous." The people wanted to honor themselves. The people wanted honor for themselves, not for God. So God made the people stop building. So people, so God made the people stop building the tower. Do you know how He did it? By suddenly causing people to speak different languages instead of just one. No longer did the builders understand one another. This is why their city name. This is why their city name to be. This is why their city came to be. Yeah, this is why their city came to be called Babel or Babylon, meaning confusion. The people now began to move away from Babel or Babel. I think it's either one works. Yeah, the people began to move away from Babel. Um, Groups of persons who spoke the same language went to live together in other parts of the earth. Chapter 13. Abraham, a friend of God. One of the places where people went to live after the flood was called Ur. It became an important city to some nice home. It became an important city with some nice homes in it. But the people there worshipped false gods. That was the way they did in Babel too. The people in Ur and Babel were not like Noah and his son Shem, who kept on serving Jehovah. Finally, 350 years after the flood, faithful Noah died. It was just 2 years later that the man you see in this picture was born. He was a very special person to God. His name was Abraham. He lived with his family in that city of Ur. One day, Jehovah told Abraham, "Leave Ur and your relatives and go to a country I will show you." Did Abraham obey God and leave behind all the comforts of Ur? Yes, he did. And it was because Abraham always obeyed God when he came to be known that he came to be known as God's friend. Sounds like a one-way relationship to me. A friendship. You obey someone and that's it. They don't obey you. More like God's dog. You know what? Yeah. Yep. I'm pretty sure a bunch of people are going to be offended. Please don't report my video. And if they do, it's okay. This is a very sensitive topic. But I'm reading this book because I like it. I do. I really do. I like the stories in it. I think they're pretty neat and interesting. And also, it's another book to read, so. Anyway, some of Abraham's family went along with him when he left Ur. His father Terah did. So did his nephew Lot, and of course Abraham's wife Sarah too. In time they all arrived to a place called Haran, where Terah died. They were far away from Ur. A while after Abraham and his household left Haran, and came to the land known as Canaan. There, Jehovah said, "This is the land that I will give you to your children." Sorry. I promise you, it's not Rona. It's not. Fucking, I saw that a little tiny goddamn fly, gnat, whatever it was going straight to my mouth, and I thought I had blown it away, but I guess it went inside my mouth, and like it got to like the back of my throat. So that's why I coughed. It's not the Rona. Yeah. There Jehovah said, "This is the land that I will give to your children." Abraham stayed in Canaan and lived in tents. God began to help Abraham so that he came to have great flocks of sheep and other animals and hundreds of servants, but he and Sarah did not have any children of their own. When Abraham was 99 years old, Jehovah said, "I promise that you will become a father to many nations of people." But how could this happen since Abraham and Sarah were now too old to have a child? We will see in the next chapter. Chapter 14. God tests Abraham's faith. Can you see what Abraham is doing here? He has a knife and it looks as if he's going to kill his son. Why would he ever do that? First, let's see how Abraham and Sarah got their son. Remember, God promised them that they would have a son? But that seemed impossible because Abraham and Sarah were so old. Abraham, however, believed that God could do what seemed impossible. So what happened? After God made his promise, a whole year passed, and then, when Abraham was 100 years old and Sarah was 90 years old, they had a baby boy named Isaac. God had kept his promise. But when Isaac had grown older, Jehovah tested Abraham's faith. He called, "Abraham," and Abraham answered, "Here I am." Then he said, "Take your son, your only son, Isaac, and go to the mountain that I will show you. There, kill your son and offer him up as a sacrifice." How sad those words made Abraham, because Abraham loved his son very much. And remember, God had promised that Abraham's children would live in the land of Canaan. But how could that happen if Isaac were dead? Abraham did not understand, but still he obeyed God. When he got to the mountain, Abraham tied up Isaac and put him on the altar that he built. Then he took out a knife to kill his son. But at that moment, God's angel called. Okay, yeah. Then he took out a knife to kill his son. But just at that moment, God's angel called, Abraham, Abraham! And Abraham answered, Here I am. Don't hurt the boy or do anything to him. God said, Now I know that you have faith in me, because you have not held back your son, your only one, from me. LOL, JK nerd. Fucking, you weren't gonna kill your son. Ha ha, lol. It was just a joke. What great faith Abraham had in God. He believed that nothing was impossible for Jehovah and that Jehovah could even raise Isaac from the dead. But it was not really God's will for Abraham to kill Isaac. So God caused the sheep to get caught in some nearby bushes, and he told Abraham to sacrifice it instead of his son. Ha ha, lol. Alright. Chapter 15. Lot's wife looked back. Just a prank joke, bro. Chill. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Uh, Lot's wife looked back. Chapter 15. Or chapter 15. Lot's wife looked back. Lot and his family lived together with Abraham in the land of Canaan. One day, Abraham said to Lot, There isn't land enough here for all our animals. Please, let us separate. If you go one way, then I will go the other. Lot looked over the land. He saw a very nice part of the country that had water and a lot of good grass for his animals. This was the district of Jordan. So Lot moved his family and animals there. They finally made their home. They finally made their home in the city of Sodom, or Sodom. I think it's Sodom is better. Or no, it's Sodom. Sodom. I don't think it really matters, unless it's Sodom, 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 Sodom. I saw you typing. Unless you weren't typing. Anyways, thank you. Sodom. They finally made their home in the city of Sodom. The people of Sodom were very bad. This upset Lot because he was a good man. God was upset too. Finally, God sent two angels to warn Lot that he was going to destroy Sodom and the nearby city of Gomorrah. Of Gomorrah. Yeah, of Gomorrah, because of their badness. And the angels told Lot, Hurry, take your wife and your two daughters and get out of here. Lot and his family were a little slow in going, so the angels took them by the hand and led them out of the city. Then one of the angels said, Run for your lives. Don't look back. Run to the hills so that you won't be killed. Lot and his daughters obeyed and ran away from Sodom. They They didn't stop to look for a moment, and they didn't look back. But Lot's wife disobeyed. After they had gone some distance from Sodom, she stopped and looked back. Then Lot's wife became a pillar of salt. Can you see her in the picture? Yeah, and it's just like a body of salt. Can you see her in the picture? We can learn a good lesson from this. It shows us that God saves those who obey him, but those who do not obey him will lose their lives. Well, we already lose our lives because we're dying already, so he's not really saving us. God, that fly really fucked me up. Like, there's like something in the back of my throat. I'm telling you, it's not COVID. It was just that goddamn fly. Besides, I'm not like heavy coughing or anything like that. I ain't even coughing. Okay. Chapter 16. We're halfway there. Yeah, halfway there. Well, no. Not halfway. I wouldn't say halfway. Alright. Chapter 16. Isaac gets a good wife. Do you know who the woman is in the picture? Her name is Rebecca, and the man she is coming to meet is Isaac. She's going to become his wife. How did this happen? Well, Isaac's father Abraham wanted to get a good wife for his son. He didn't want Isaac to marry one of the women in Canaan because these people worshipped false gods. So Abraham called his servant and said, I want you to go back to where my relatives live in Haran and get a wife for my son Isaac. Right away, Abraham's servant took 10 camels and made a long trip. When he got near the place where Abraham's relatives live, when he got near the place where Abraham's relatives lived, he stopped at a well. It was late in the afternoon. The time. Yeah, it was late in the afternoon. The time when the women of the city could. Yeah, it was late in the. Sorry, fucking. Sorry, it's just like my throat is still like feeling really weird. Like, probably not true, but I feel like that fly is like in my lungs now. It was like only a little gnat, but it feels like something's in my lungs that like I didn't feel before. And do not worry, I don't think I have the Rona. All right. It was late in the afternoon, the time when the women of the city could come would the It was it was late in the afternoon, the time when the women of the city could come get water from the well. So Abraham's servant said a prayer to Jehovah. May the woman that gets some water for me and the camels be the one that you choose to be the wife of Isaac. Soon, Rebekah came along to get some water. When the servant asked her for a drink, she gave him one. Then she went to get enough water for all the thirsty camels. That was hard work because camels drink lots and lots of water. Well, the servant could have helped her. Um, when Rebecca was finished doing this, Abraham's servant asked her the name of her father. He also asked if he could stay overnight at their home. She said, "My father is Bethuel. 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 My father is Bethuel, and there is room for you to stay with us." Abraham's servant knew that Bethuel was the son of Abraham's brother, Nahor. Yeah, Abraham's servant knew that Bethuel was the son of Abraham's brother, Nahor. So he knelt down and thanked Jehovah for leading him to Abraham's relatives. That night, Abraham's servant told Bethuel and Rebekah's brother Laban why he had come. They both agreed that Rebekah could go with him and marry Isaac. What did Rebekah say when she was asked? She said yes, she wanted to go. So the very next day, they got on the camels and began the long trip back to Canaan. When they arrived, it was evening time. Rebekah saw a man walking in the field. It was Isaac. He was glad to see Rebekah. His mother Sarah had died just 3 years before, and he was still sad about this. But now Isaac came to love Rebekah very much, and he was happy again. I don't think they asked her. Probably not. I mean, who knows? Sorry for the people. Listening to this. Okay. Chapter 17. We're going to go all the way to chapter 33. Though the stories are pretty short. Alright. Yeah, chapter 17. Twins who were different. The two boys here are very different, aren't they? Do you know their names? The hunter is Esau, and the boy taking care of the sheep is Jacob. Esau and Jacob were twin sons of Isaac and Rebekah. The father, Isaac, killed Esau a lot. I was about to say killed. Okay, Esau and Jacob were the twin sons of Isaac and Rebekah. The father, Isaac, liked Esau a lot because he was a good hunter and would bring home food for the family to eat. But Rebekah loved Jacob most because he was a quiet, peaceful boy. Grandfather Abraham was still alive, and we can just imagine how Jacob sorry. Yeah, grandfather Abraham was still alive. So, and we can imagine how Jacob liked to listen to him talk about Jehovah. Abraham finally died at 175 years of age when the twins were 15 years old. When Esau was 40, he married 2 women from the land of Canaan. This made Isaac and Rebekah very sad. because these women did not worship Jehovah. One day, something happened that made Esau very angry with his brother Jacob. The time came when Isaac was to give a blessing to his older son. Since Esau was older than Jacob, Esau expected to receive this blessing, but uh, Esau had earlier sold the right to receive the blessing to Jacob. Also, when the two boys were born, God had said that Jacob would receive the blessing, and this is what happened. Isaac gave the blessing to his son Jacob. Later, when Esau learned about this, he became angry with Jacob. He was so angry that he said he was going to kill Jacob. When Rebekah heard about this, she was very worried. So she told her husband Isaac, "It will be just terrible if Jacob also marries one of these women of Canaan." At that, Isaac called his son Jacob and told him, "Don't marry a woman from Canaan. Go instead to the house of your grandfather, Bethuel, in Haran. Marry one of the daughters of his son Laban." Jacob listened to his father, and right away began his long trip to where his relatives lived in Haran. All right, chapter 18. Jacob goes to Haran. Do you know what these men? Do you know who these men are Jacob is talking to? After traveling many days, Jacob met them at a well by the well. They were taking care of their sheep. Jacob asked, "Where are you from?" "Haran," they said. "Do you know Laban?" Jacob asked. "Yes," they answered. "Look, here comes his daughter, Rachel, with his flock of sheep." "Can you see Rachel there coming in the distance?" When Jacob saw Rachel with his uncle Laban's sheep, he went and rolled the stone away from the well so the sheep could drink. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and told her who he was. She was very excited, and she went home and told her father Laban. Yeah, that sounds like a very fake story. Like, fucking he kissed a stranger, and she's just like, "Okay, this is fun. I like this." Yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah, then Jacob kissed Rachel and told her who he was. She was very excited, and she went home and told her father Laban. Sorry, it's just like I really have something like either like in the back of my throat or like in my lung. I don't know. I've been drinking water and it's not working. I drank some water again. If this lasts, like, if I start feeling this, like, tomorrow, then I'll be worried. But it was like, I don't know, it started when that fly got in my goddamn mouth. Stupid fly. Yeah. Yeah, like, every time I breathe. You know what? Yeah, I might be psyching myself out because of the fly. But also, like, I can feel something. Maybe this is just me secking out, but like, I honest God feel like something is tickling the back of my throat. I swear to God, it better be that fly and not the fucking Rona. Sorry to the people that are gonna be listening to this on their headphones. Hold on, let me just turn this down. Because clearly I am not sick. Okay. I gurgled. Yeah, you're right. Hopefully, I don't have to stop in the middle of part two because of this. Because I really don't want to do that. Okay. All right. Yeah. Laban was very happy to have Jacob's. Laban was very happy to have Jacob stay with him, and then and when Jacob asked to marry Rachel, Laban was glad. However, he asked Jacob to work in his field 7 years for Rachel, because he loved Rachel so. Because he loved Rachel, so did Jake. So because he lived, yeah. God, I don't know why I'm getting so like. Yeah, I think I'm just psyching myself out like a lot. Um, yeah, and when Jacob asked to marry Rachel, Laban was glad. However, he asked Jacob to work in his field 7 years for Rachel because because he loved Rachel so much. Jacob did this, but when the time came for marriage, do you know what happened? Laban gave his oldest daughter Leah to Jacob instead of Rachel. When Jacob agreed to work for Laban for 7 years, Laban also gave him Rachel as his wife. Uh, that doesn't sound like. I feel like he just tricked him, and he's just like, "Ha, you gotta work 7 more years if you want to marry the girl you wanted to marry in the first place." Heh, joke's on you. That's a little. I don't know. That just seems wrong. But yeah, he says, when Jacob agreed to work for Laban 7 more years, Laban also gave him Rachel as his wife. In those times, God allowed men to have more than one wife. But now, as the Bible shows, a man should only have one wife. Yeah, right? Like, huh, Sykes, here, have my older one. Oh, you have to work another 7 years to get the one you really want to marry. Hot. Chapter 19. Jacob has a big family. Just look at this big family. There are there are there are Jacob these are Jacob's 12 sons. And he had daughters too. Yeah, but we're not gonna go into some of them. Because they don't matter. Daughters don't matter. We're not gonna even tell you how many daughters he has. And he had daughters too. Do you know the names of any of the children? Let's learn some of them. Leah gave birth to Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. When Rachel saw that she was not having any children, She was very sad, so she gave her maidservant Bilhah, ha, Bilhah to Jacob. And Bilhah had two sons named Dan and Naphtali. Then Leah also gave her maidservant Zilpah to Jacob, and Jacob was a busy boy. And Zilpah gave birth to Gad and Asher. Leah finally had two more sons, Issachar, Issachar and Zebulun. At last, Rachel was able to have a child. She named him Joseph. Later, we will learn a lot more about Joseph because he became a very important person. These are the 11 sons that were born to Jacob. These were the 11 sons that were born to Jacob when he lived with Rachel's father. Laban. Jacob also had some daughters, but the Bible gives the name of only one of them. Her name is Dinah, or Dinah. I think Dinah is better. But God, the Bible only gives a name for one of them. That's kind of wrong. The other ones don't matter? I guess not. Alright. The time came when Jacob decided to leave Laban and go back to Canaan. So he gathered together his big family and his great flocks of sheep and herds of cattle and began a long trip. After Jacob and his family had been back in Canaan for a while, Rachel gave birth to another son. It happened when they were on the trip. Rachel had a hard time and she finally died while giving birth. But the little baby boy was all right. Jacob named him Benjamin. We want to remember the names of the 12 sons Jacob because the whole nation of Israel came from them. In fact, the 12 tribes of Israel are named after 10 sons of Jacob and 2 sons of Joseph. Isaac lived for many years after all these boys were born, and it must have made him happy to have so many grandsons. How about granddaughters? Come on now. But let's see what happened to his granddaughter, Dinah. Dinah fucked up. That's what she did. Okay. Yeah. Chapter 20. Dinah gets into trouble. Do you see who Dinah is going to visit? She is going to see some of the girls who live in the city in the land of Canaan. Would her father Jacob be happy about this? To help answer this question, try to remember what Abraham and Isaac thought about the women in Canaan. Did Abraham want his son Isaac to marry a girl from Canaan? No, he did not. Did Isaac and Rebekah want their son Jacob to marry a Canaanite girl? No, they did not. Do you know why? It was because these people in Canaan worshipped false gods. They were not good people to have as husbands and wives, and they weren't good people to have as close friends. So we can be sure that Jacob would not be pleased that his daughter was making friends with these Canaanite girls. Sure enough, Dinah got into trouble. Can you see that Canaanite man in the picture who is looking at Dinah? His name is Shechem. Yeah, his name is Shechem. Or could it be Chem? Help me out with this one. Shem. Canaanite. Well, it's ka ka and then okay. Wait. Nan and then it. That's how the book Canaanite. 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 Yeah,
It's Canaan and Canaanite. It's the land of Canaan, and the people are Canaanites.
Okay. Hold on.
Sorry.
That's okay. I just need to lower your volume because I guess in on OBS you kind of just like blared out.
Oh, dang. Hello, everyone.
Now you're fine.
And then what's the other name?
It's I don't know if I should pronounce it Shem or Shkem.
Shechem
Shehem?
with a Shechem.
Shechem?
I don't remember that name.
Dang. Yeah.
The city of
What were you gonna say?
Shechem.
Shechem?
Shechem or Shechem.
Oh, Shechem. Okay. Are you looking that up?
Yeah, I looked that up
Cool.
because I had no idea.
Yeah, me neither, bro. I'm just winging it.
Yeah, you're doing great.
Cool. Thank you.
And thank everyone for listening. All right, I'll shut up now.
Yeah, they don't want to hear your deep voice anyway. All nasally. No, I love your voice. Fucking, I don't know how you love me with mine, because every time I hear mine, I'm just like, I sound like a 12-year-old, and I don't like it. I wish I could change it, but I can't. Anyway, I know I'm a star. Okay. Shechem. Okay. Yeah. Sure enough, Daniel got into trouble. Can you see the hold on. Can you see the Canaanite, you said? Was it? Canaanite? Okay, cool. I was pronouncing it wrong this whole time. So it's Canaan. So it's Canaan. Okay, not Canaan. Okay, cool. It's fucking weird. But at least people will be happy to hear me pronounce it right. Oh, really? Dang. No, yeah. So it's Canaan. Okay. Alright. Canaanite. Yeah, Canaanite. There we go. Sure enough, Dina got into trouble. Can you see that Canaanite man? Now it's gonna sound weird. It's just practice. Practice and it'll be okay. Can you see that Canaanite man in the picture who was looking at Dina? His name is Shechem. One day when Dina came on a visit, Shechem took Dina and forced her to lie down with him. This was wrong because only married men and women are supposed to lie down together. This bad thing that Shechem did to Dinah led to a lot more trouble. When Dinah's brothers heard about what happened, they got very angry. Two of them, Simeon and Levi, were so angry that they took their swords and went into the city and caught the men by surprise. They and their brothers killed Shechem and all the other men. Jacob was angry because his sons Jacob was angry because his sons did a bad thing. How did all how did all this trouble get started? It was because Dinah made friends with people who did not obey God's laws. We will not want to make such friends, will we? Fucking, it's not her fault. She got raped. All right. Right? It does. Yep. That too. That too. All right. Chapter 21. Joseph's brothers hate him. See how sad and hopeless the boy is? This is Joseph. His brothers have just sold him to these men who are on their way to Egypt. There, Joseph will be made a slave. Why have his brothers done such this? Why have his brothers done this bad thing? It is because they are jealous of Joseph. Their father Jacob liked Joseph very, very much. He showed him favor by having a beautiful long coat made for him. When his 10 older brothers saw how Jacob loved Joseph, they began to be jealous and to hate Joseph. But there was also another reason why they hated him. Joseph had 2 dreams. In both of Joseph's dreams, his brothers bowed down to him. When Joseph told his brothers these dreams, their hatred grew even more. One day, when Joseph's older brothers were taking care of his father's sheep, Jacob asked Joseph to go and see how they are getting along. When Joseph's brothers see him coming, some of them say, "Let's kill him." But Reuben, the oldest brother, said, "No, don't do that." Instead, they grab Joseph and throw him into a dried up water hole. Then they sit down to decide what to do with him. About this time, some Ishmaelite men. Am I saying that right? Ishmaelite. Yeah, I think it's Ishmaelite. It's Ish. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think I'm saying it right. Yeah, it's Ishmaelite. But I'll just say Ishmaelite. About this time, some Ishmaelite men came along. Judah says to his half-brothers, "Let's sell him to the Ishmaelites." And that's what they do. They sell Joseph for 20 silver. They sell Joseph for 20 pieces of silver. How mean and unkind that was. What will the brothers tell their father? They kill a goat and again and again dip Joseph's beautiful coat into a goat's blood. Then they take the coat home to their father Jacob and say, "We found this. Look at it and see if it is not Joseph's coat." Joseph sees that it is. "A wild animal must have killed Joseph," he cries, and that is just what Joseph's brothers want their father to think. Joseph is very, very sad. He weeps for many days. But Joseph is not dead. Let's see what happens to him where he is taken. All right. chapter 22. Joseph is put Joseph is put into prison. Joseph is only 17 years old when he's taken down to Egypt. There he was sold to a man named Potiphar. Yeah. Potiphar. So I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that right. I don't remember the movie. I'm sorry. I don't remember how it's pronounced. I know I am a disgrace. But I am also not religious, so. You probably remember more about the movie. Potiphar. Ah. Potiphar. 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 You know what? I'm just gonna. Potiphar.
According to Wikipedia, Potiphar, also known
Potiphar.
as in Islam,
There we
is a figure
go.
in the Hebrew Bible.
There we go. Potiphar. 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 I want to hear it again. No. Potiphar.
According to Wikipedia, Potiphar, also known as Aziz in Islam, is a figure in the Hebrew Bible and the Quran.
Okay, Potiphar. Okay. I'm gonna stop saying this because. Oh man, it's already 9. God damn it. Well, this was a long part too. Alright. Joseph is put into prison. Joseph is only 17 years old when he's taken down into Egypt. There he was sold to a man called. There he is sold to a man named Potiphar. To Potiphar. Potiphar works for the king of Egypt, who is named Pharaoh. Joseph works hard for his master Potiphar. So when Joseph grows old, Potiphar puts him in charge of his whole house. Why then? Why then is Joseph here in prison? It is because of Potiphar's wife. Potiphar grows up to be a very good-looking man, and Potiphar's wife wants him to lie down with her. But Joseph knows this is wrong, and he won't do it. Potiphar's wife is very angry. So when her husband comes home, she lies to him and says, "That bad Joseph tried to lie down with me." Potiphar believes his wife, and he's very angry with Joseph, and he has him thrown into prison. The man in charge of the prison soon sees that Joseph is a good man, so he puts him in charge of the other prisoners. Later, Pharaoh becomes angry with his cupbearer and his baker, and puts them in prison. One night, they each have a special dream, but they do not know the meaning of their dreams. The next day, Joseph says, "Tell me your dreams." And when they do, Joseph, with God's help, explains the meaning of their dreams. To the cupbearer, Joseph says, In 3 days you will be let out of prison, and you will become Pharaoh's cupbearer again." So Joseph adds, "When you get out, tell Pharaoh about me and help me to get out of this place." But to the baker, Joseph says, "In just 3 days, Pharaoh will have your head cut off." In 3 days, it happens just as Joseph said. Pharaoh has the baker's head cut off. The cupbearer, though, is let out of prison and begins to serve the king again. But the cupbearer forgets all about Joseph. He does not tell Pharaoh about him or Joseph, and Joseph has to stay in. He does not tell Pharaoh about him, and Joseph has to stay in prison. Fucking gotta help brothers out, man. Okay. I'll probably finish this in like 30 minutes. Maybe 20. I'm pretty close. Well, 10. 10 more chapters. It's like, fuck you, I got mine. Yeah, exactly. Every man for himself, I guess. Alright. Chapter 23. Pharaoh's Dreams. 2 years pass and Joseph is still in prison. The cupbearer has not remembered him. Then one night, Pharaoh has two very special dreams, and he wonders what they mean. Do you see him sleeping there? The next morning, Pharaoh calls his wise men and tells them the things he has dreamed, but they are not able to tell him the meaning of his dreams. Now the cupbearer at last remembers Joseph. He says to Pharaoh, "When I was in prison, there was a man who could tell the meaning of dreams." Pharaoh has Joseph brought out of prison right away. Pharaoh tells Joseph his dreams. "I saw 7 fat, beautiful cows. Then I saw 7 very thin and bony cows. And the thin ones ate up the fat cows. In my second dream, I saw 7 heads full of full ripe grain growing on one stalk. Then I saw 7 thin, dried out heads of grain, and the thin heads of grain began to swallow up the 7 good heads of grain." Joseph said to Pharaoh, "The 2 dreams mean the same thing. The 7 fat cows and the 7 full heads of grain mean 7 years, and the 7 fat cows and the 7 full heads of grain mean 7 years, and the 7 thin cows and the 7 thin heads of grain mean 7 more years. There will be 7 years when a lot of food will grow in Egypt, and there will be 7 years when very little food will grow." So Joseph tells Pharaoh, "Choose a wise man and put him in charge of collecting food during the 7 good years. Then the people will not starve during the following 7 bad years, when very little food will grow." Pharaoh likes the idea, and he chooses Joseph to collect the food and to store it up. Next to Pharaoh, Joseph becomes the most important man in Egypt. 8 years later, during the famine, Joseph sees some men coming. Do you know who they are? Why, they are his 10 older brothers. Their father Jacob has sent them to Egypt because they were running out of food back home in Canaan. Joseph recognizes his brothers, but they do not recognize him. Do you know why? It is because Joseph has grown older, and he is dressed in a different kind of clothes. Joseph remembers that when he was a boy, he dreamed about his brothers coming to bow down to him. Do you remember reading about that? So Joseph can see that it is God who has sent him down to Egypt, and for a good reason. What do you think Joseph does? Let's see. Chapter 24. Joseph tests his brothers. Joseph wants to know if his 10 older brothers are still mean and unkind. So he says, "You are spies. You have come to find where our country is weak." "No, we are not," they say. "We are honest men, and we are all brothers. We were 12, but one brother is no more, and the youngest is at home with her father." Joseph pretends not to believe them. They keep the brother He keeps the brother named Simeon in prison and lets the others take food and go home. But he tells them, "When you come back, you must bring your youngest brother with you." They return home to Canaan. The brothers tell their father Jacob everything that happened. Jacob is very sad. Joseph is no more. "Joseph is no more," he cries, "and now Simeon is no more. I will not let you take my youngest son Benjamin." But when their food begins to run out, Jacob has to let them take Benjamin to Egypt so they can get more food. Now Joseph sees his brothers coming. He is very happy to see his younger brother Benjamin. Of course, none of them know that this important man is Joseph. Joseph now does something to test his 10 half brothers. He has his servants fill up all their bags with food, but without letting them know. He also has his special silver cup to put into Benjamin's bag. After they all leave and have gone a little distance on the road, Joseph sends his servants after them. When they catch up with him, the servants say, "Why have you stolen our master's silver cup?" "We have not stolen his cup," the brothers all say. "If you find the cup with any one of us, let that person be killed." So the servants search through all the bags, and they find the cup in Benjamin's bag, just as you see here. The servants say, "The rest of you can go, but Benjamin must come with us." What will the 10 half brothers do now? They all return with Benjamin. To Joseph's house. Joseph tells his brothers, "You can all go home, but Benjamin must stay here as my slave." Judah now speaks up and says, "If I go back home without the boy, my father will die because he loves him very much. So please, keep me here as your slave, but let the boy go home." Joseph can see that his brothers have changed. They are not mean and unkind anymore. Let's find out what Joseph does. Chapter 25. The family moves to Egypt. Joseph cannot control his feelings any longer. He tells all his servants to leave the room. When he is alone with his brothers, Joseph begins to cry. We can imagine how surprised his brothers are, because they do not know why he is crying. Finally, he says, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" His brothers are so surprised that they can't speak. They are afraid. But Joseph says, "Please come closer." When they do, he says, "I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt." Joseph continues to speak in a kind way. "Do not blame yourselves because you sold me here. It was really God who sent me to Egypt to save people's lives. Pharaoh had made me the ruler has made me the ruler of the whole country. So now hurry back to my father and tell him this, and tell him to come and live here." Then Joseph throws his arms around his brother, and he hugs and kisses them all. When Pharaoh hears that Joseph's brothers have come, he tells Joseph, "Let them take wagons and go get their father and their families and come back here. I will give them the best land in all Egypt." That is what they did. You can see Joseph meeting his father when he came to Egypt with his whole family. Jacob's family had become very big. Altogether, there were 70 when they moved. Yeah, altogether there were 70 when they moved to Egypt, counting Jacob and his children and grandchildren. but there were also the wives, and probably many servants too. These all these all settled into Egypt. They were called the Israelites because God had changed the name to of Jacob to Israel. The Israelites became a very special people to God, as we will see later. And that's you, babe. You're one of the chosen people. I don't know from which tribe, but I guess, yeah. Probably your mom knows more about, like, what tribe I guess you guys are from. Unless that part's a little. You guys don't know. Also, I need to get. I need to get the charger for the laptop because it is running low. Okay. Yeah, and you're right. I was totally psyching myself up because now I feel like, I guess, much better. Once I stopped, like, kind of freaking myself out, I am much better. We're almost there. We're almost done. This is a long part, though, I will say. Alright. Chapter 26. You need 7 more chapters to go. Hell yeah. Alright. Chapter 26. Job is faithful to God. Wait, is this? Yeah, this is right. Yeah. Chapter 26. Job is faithful to God. Do you feel sorry for the sick man? His name is Job, and the woman is his wife. Do you know what she is saying to Job? Yeah, Job. That's how it's said, or how am I supposed to pronounce it? Is it Job instead? Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I did not know that. I knew that because my my grandma, that's a Jehovah Witness, and she primarily speaks Spanish. She says Job, and but I always thought that was because, like, the Spanish translation, because it's still Job, but it's just pronounced Job. Yeah, no. So Job. Okay, Job. All right. Do you feel sorry for the sick man? His name is Job, and the woman is his wife. Do you know what? Oh god. Okay, I'm gonna read this and then I'm gonna show you the picture. This, I don't know, it's just really funny. Like, her stance and stuff is just really funny when she's gonna say this. Do you know what she is saying to Job? Curse God and die. Oh, let me show you the picture. I think it's super funny. I don't know why, but it's just um okay. Okay, I'm gonna have to, like, get it really good. There's that picture. It's just funny because, like, her stance and stuff is just like, now listen here. Like, isn't it funny? Just like how she has her arm like that. Right? It's just like, curse God and die. Like, boy. Right? It just seems, looks so funny. Anyway. Do you know what she is saying to Job? Curse God and die. Let's see why she would ever say a thing like that, and why Job suffered so much. Job was a faithful man who obeyed Jehovah. He lived in the city of Uz. Uz or Uz? You probably know something about this, maybe. Yeah, that's how it's spelled. U-Z. So it's Uz or Uz? I don't know if you would know anything about that. If it's like Uz or Uz. I can also just look it up too, see? Yeah, Uz. Okay, cool. Yeah, Job was a faithful man who obeyed Jehovah. He lived in the land of Uz, not far from Canaan. Jehovah loved Job. That's gonna be really weird to say, Job. Yeah, Jehovah loved Job very much, but there was someone who hated him. Do you know who? It was Satan the devil. Remember, Satan is the bad angel who hates Jehovah. He was able to get Adam and Eve to disobey Jehovah, but he thought he could get everybody else to disobey, and he thought he could get everybody else to disobey Jehovah too. But was he able to? No. Just think about just think of the many faithful men and women we have learned about. How many can you name? After Jacob and Joseph died in Egypt, Job was the person most faithful to Jehovah in all the earth. And Jehovah wanted to let Satan know that he could not get everyone to be bad. So he said, "Look at Job. See how faithful he is to me." "He is faithful," Satan argued, "because you bless him and he has many good things. But if you take these away, he will curse you." So Jehovah said, "Go ahead, take them away. Do all the bad things you want to Job. We will see if he curses me. Only be sure that you do not kill him." So God's just like, "Yeah, fuck with him. I'm pretty sure he'll still, obey me. But go ahead, try. Break him." What kind of God is that? First, Satan had men steal Job's cattle and camels, and his sheep were killed. Then he killed his 10 sons and daughters in a storm. Next, Satan struck Job with this terrible sickness. Job suffered very much. This is why Job's wife. That is why Job's wife told him, "Curse God and die." But Job would not do it. Also, 3 false friends came and told him he had lived a bad life. But Job kept faithful. This made Jehovah very happy, and afterward he blessed Job, as you can see in the picture. He healed him from a sickness. Job had 10 more beautiful children, and twice as many cattle, sheep, and camels as he had before. Will you always be faithful to Jehovah like Job? If you are, God will bless you too. You will be able to live forever with the whole earth, when the whole earth will be made just as pretty as the Garden of Eden. All right, chapter 27. A bad king rules Egypt. The men here are forcing the people to work. Look at the man who was hitting one of the workers with a whip. The workers are the family of Jacob and are called Israelites, and the men forcing them to work are Egyptians. The Israelites have become slaves to the Egyptians. How did this happen? For many years, Jacob's big family lived at peace in Egypt. Joseph, who was the most important man in Egypt next to Pharaoh the king, took care of them. But when Joseph died and a new Pharaoh But then Joseph died, and a new Pharaoh, who did not like the Israelites, became king in Egypt. This was bad. So this bad Pharaoh made the Israelites slaves, and he put men in charge of them who were mean and cruel. They forced the Israelites to work very hard, building cities for Pharaoh. But still, the Israelites kept growing in numbers. After a while, the Egyptians became too afraid that the Israelites would become too many and too strong. Do you know what Pharaoh did? He spoke to the women who helped the Israelite mothers when they gave birth to their babies and said, "You must kill every baby boy that is born." But these were good women, and they would not kill the babies. So Pharaoh gave his command to all his people. Take the baby Israelite boys and kill them. Let only the baby girls live. Wasn't that a terrible thing to command? Let's see how one of the baby boys was saved. For me, I feel like that's sexist because, it's not just, boys aren't, ancestry comes from, the male and blah, 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 blah. And so does, the last name and stuff, but, girls are just as important. So if you really wanted to kill the Israelites, I mean, you're still gonna have Israelite babies, even if an Egyptian boy and an Egyptian girl, yeah. Even if, an Egyptian boy and an Israelite girl get together, you're still gonna have, part Israelite. So, wouldn't it be, from, an equality standpoint, better to kill all of them? If, hopefully this isn't controversial, but, I don't know, I just think it's dumb that it's just oh, the boys are more important, so you have to kill them. I don't know. You get me? I think you get me, Chandler, but the other people might not get me. Kill lady babies too. Yeah, equality for all, right? We deserve to be killed too. But I guess it's about power too, which is also, genocide of all babies. Yeah, but I guess it's about power too. So, I guess that's what they were, aiming for, But yeah, let's see how one of the baby boys was saved. Alright, on to one of the last stories. Because we're going to end with Moses and how he takes the Israelites out of Egypt, and that's going to be the end of part 2. Okay, so, chapter 28. How baby Moses was saved. See the little baby crying and holding on to the lady's finger? This is Moses. Do you know who the pretty lady is? She is an Egyptian princess, Pharaoh's own daughter. Moses' mother hid her baby until he was 3 months old because she didn't want him to be killed by the Egyptians. But she knew that Moses might be found, so this is what she did to save him. She took the basket and filled it so that no water could leak in. Then she put Moses into it and placed the basket in the tall grass along the Nile River. Moses' sister, Miriam, was told to stand nearby to see what would happen. Soon, Pharaoh's daughter came down to the Nile River to bathe. Suddenly, she saw the basket in the tall grass. She asked one of her servant girls, "Go get that basket for me." Uh, when the princess opened the basket, what a beautiful baby she saw. Little Moses was crying, and the princess felt sorry for him. So she didn't want to have him killed. Then Miriam came up. You can see her in the picture. Miriam asked Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call an Israelite woman to nurse the baby for you?" "Please do," the princess said. So Miriam ran quickly to tell her mother. When Moses' mother came to the princess said, "Take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you." So Moses' mother took care of her own child. Later, when Moses was old enough, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, who Later, when Moses was old enough, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, who adopted him as her own son. That is how Moses came to grow up in the house of Pharaoh. Yeah, so it's a lot different from the movie version. Um, Chapter 29. Why Moses ran away. Look at... Yeah. Yeah. Chapter 29. Why Moses ran away. Look at Moses running away from Egypt. Can you see the men chasing him? Do you know what they want? Why they want to kill Moses? Let's see if we can find out. Moses grew up in the house of Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt. He became a very wise and great man. Moses knew that he was not an Egyptian, but that his real parents were Israelite slaves. One day, when he was 40 years old, Moses decided to go to see how his people were getting along. It was terrible how they were being treated. He saw an Egyptian beating an Israelite slave. Moses looked around, and when he didn't see anybody watching, he hit the Egyptian, and the Egyptian died. Then Moses hid his body in the sand. The next day, Moses went out to see his people again. He thought he could help them so they wouldn't have to be slaves anymore. But he saw two Israelite men fighting. So Moses said to the one who was in the wrong, "Why are you beating up your brother?" The man said, "Who made you our ruler and judge? Are you going to kill me just as you killed that Egyptian?" Moses now became afraid. He knew that people had found out what he had done to the Egyptian. Even Pharaoh heard about it, and he sent men to kill Moses. That is why Moses had to run away from Egypt. When Moses left Egypt, he went far away to the land of Midian. Yeah, I'm saying that right? It's Midian. I just want to make sure I'm not being dumb. Because I've seen this movie, but I forget. Yeah, it's Midian, right? Or is it Midian? Oh, cool. Yeah. When Moses left Egypt, he went far away to the land of Midian. There he met the family of Jethro and married one of his daughters named Zipporah. Moses became a shepherd and took care of Jethro's sheep. For 40 years he lived in the land of Midian. He was now 80 years of age. Then one day, while Moses was taking care of Jethro's sheep, an amazing thing happened that changed Moses' whole life. Turn the page and see what happened, and let's see what this amazing thing is. Alright, chapter 30. The burning bush. Moses had come all the way to the mountain of Horeb? Yeah, I think it's Horeb. It's Horeb. Wait, I can just look it up on my phone too. Horeb.
Here's a summary from Wikipedia. Mount Sinai is a mountain in the Sinai Peninsula of Egypt that is a possible location of the biblical Mount Sinai.
Yeah, it didn't tell me, it didn't pronounce, but I think it's Horeb. Yeah. Moses had come all the way to the mountain of Horeb to find grass for his sheep. Here he saw a bush on fire, but it wasn't burning up. This is strange, Moses thought. I will go closer to get a better look. When he did, a voice came from the bush saying, "Do not come any closer. Take off your sandals because you are standing on holy ground." It was God speaking by means of an angel, so Moses covered his face. God then said, "I have seen the suffering of my people in Egypt, so I am going to set them free. So I am going to free them, and you are the one I am sending to lead my people out of Egypt." Jehovah was going to bring his people to the beautiful land of Canaan. But Moses said, I am nobody. I am nobody. How can I do this? But suppose I do go. The Israelites will say to me, "Who sent you?" Then what shall I say? "This is what you are to say," God answered. "Jehovah, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you." And Jehovah added, "This is my name forever." "But suppose they don't believe me when I say that you sent me," Moses replied. "What is in your hand?" God asked. Moses answered, "A stick." "Throw it on the ground," God said. And when Moses did, the stick became a snake. Jehovah then showed Moses another miracle. He said, "Put your hand inside your robe." Moses did, and when he took out his hand, it was white like snow. It was white like snow. The hand looked as if it had been if the hand looked as if it had the bad sickness called leprosy. Next, Jehovah gave Moses power to do a third miracle. Finally, he said, "When you do these miracles, the Israelites will believe that I sent you." After that, Moses went home and said to Jethro, "Please let me go back to my relatives in Egypt to see how they are." So Jethro said goodbye to Moses, and Moses began his trip back to Egypt. Chapter 31. Chapter 31. Moses and Aaron see Pharaoh. When Moses returned to Egypt, he told his brother Aaron all about the miracles. And when Moses and Aaron showed the Israelites these miracles, the people all believed that Jehovah was with them. Hold on, I wasn't paying attention to that. When Moses returned to Egypt, he told his brother Aaron all about the miracles. And when Moses and Aaron showed the Israelites these miracles, the people all believed that Jehovah was with them. Then Moses and Aaron went to see Pharaoh. They told him, "Jehovah, the God of Israel, says, 'Let my people go for 3 days, so they can worship me in the wilderness.'" But Pharaoh answered, "I don't believe in Jehovah, and I am not going to let Israel go." Pharaoh was angry because the people wanted time off from work to worship Jehovah. So he forced them to work even harder. The Israelites blamed Moses for how badly they were treated, and Moses felt bad. But Jehovah told him not to worry. "I will make Pharaoh let my people go," Jehovah said. Moses and Aaron went to seek Pharaoh again. This time they did a miracle. Aaron threw his stick down and it became a big snake. But Pharaoh's wise men also threw down sticks and snakes appeared. I think so. Or like the power to give sickness or whatever. That's what it said in the book. Look what I can do. I can give you sickness. How cool is that? I'm a god. Do you believe me now? Aaron threw down his stick and it became a big snake. But Pharaoh's wise men also threw down sticks and snakes appeared. But look, Aaron's snakes is eating up the snakes of the wise men. Still, Pharaoh would not let the Israelites go. So the time came for Jehovah to teach Pharaoh a lesson. Do you know what he did? Do you know how he did it? It was by bringing 10 plagues or great troubles on Egypt. So many of the plagues, after many of the plagues, Pharaoh sent for Moses and said, "Stop the plague, and I will let Israel go." But when the plague would stop, Pharaoh would change his mind. He would not let the people go. But finally, after the 10th plague, Pharaoh sent the Israelites away. Do you know each of the 10 plagues? Turn the page and let's learn about them. Alright, chapter 32. Second to last chapter. Thank God. Okay. Chapter 32, the 10 plagues. Look at the pictures. Each one shows a plague that Jehovah brought on Egypt. The first picture, you can see Aaron hitting the Nile River with a stick. When he did, the water in the river turned to blood, and the fish died, and the river began to stink. Next, Jehovah caused frogs to come up out of the Nile River. They were everywhere, in the ovens, the baking pans, in people's beds, everywhere. When the frogs died, the Egyptians piled them up in great heaps, and the land stank with them. Then Aaron hit the ground with a stick, and the dust turned into gnats, which are small flying bugs that bite. The gnats were the third plague on the land of Egypt. The rest of the plagues hurt only the Egyptians, not the Israelites. The fourth was a plague of big flies that swarmed around into the houses of all the Egyptians. The fifth plague was on the animals. Many of the cattle and sheep and goats of the Egyptians died. Next, Moses and Aaron took some ashes and threw them into the air. They caused bad sores on the people and the animals. This was the sixth plague. After that, Moses raised his hand toward the sky, and Jehovah sent thunder and hail. It was the worst hailstorm that Egypt ever had. The eighth plague was a large swarm of locusts. Never before that time or since have there been so many locusts. They ate everything that the hail had not destroyed. The ninth plague was of darkness. For 3 days, thick darkness covered the land, but the Israelites had light where they were living. Finally, God told his people to sprinkle the blood of a young goat or a young sheep on their doorsteps. Then God's angel passed over Egypt. When the angel saw blood, he did not kill anyone in that house, but in all the houses where there was no blood on the doorsteps, God's angel killed the firstborns of both man and animals. This was the 10th plague. After the last plague, Pharaoh told the Israelites to leave. God's people were all ready to go, and that very night they started their march out of Egypt. Alright, last goddamn chapter. Alright, chapter 33. Crossing the Red Sea. Look what is happening. That is Moses with a stick stretched out over the Red Sea. Those with him safely on the other side are the Israelites, but Pharaoh and all his army are being drowned in the sea. Let's see how this came about. As we learned, Pharaoh told the Israelites to leave Egypt after God brought the 10th plague on the Egyptians. About 600,000 Israelite men left. as well as many women and children. Also, a large number of a large number of other people who had become believers in Jehovah left with the Israelites. They all took their sheep and goats and cattle with them. Before they left, the Israelites asked the Egyptians for clothes and for things made of gold and silver. The Egyptians were very much afraid because of the last plague upon them, so they gave the Israelites everything they asked for. After a few days, the Israelites came to the Red Sea. There they rested. In the meantime, Pharaoh and his men began to feel sorry that they had sent In the meantime, Pharaoh and his men began to feel sorry that they had sent the Israelites away. "We have let our slaves go," they said. So Pharaoh changed his mind once more. He quickly got his war chariot and his army ready. Then he began to chase after the Israelites with 600 special chariots, as well as all the other chariots of Egypt. When the Israelites saw Pharaoh and his army coming after them, they were very much afraid. There was no way to flee. When the Israelites saw Pharaoh and his army coming after them, they were very much afraid. There was no way to flee. The Red Sea was on one side of them, and here the Egyptians were coming from the other direction. But Jehovah put a cloud between his people and the Egyptians, so the Egyptians were not able to see the Israelites to attack them. Jehovah then told Moses to stretch his stick out over the Red Sea. When he did, Jehovah caused a strong east wind to blow. The waters of the sea were parted, and the waters were held up on both sides. Then the Israelites began to march through the sea on dry ground. It took hours for the millions of people with all their animals to get safely through the sea on the other side. Finally, the Egyptians were able to see the Israelites again. Finally the Egyptians were able to see the Israelites again. Their slaves were getting away, so they rushed into the sea after them. When they did, God caused the wheels of their chariots to fall off. The Egyptians became very much afraid and began to cry out, "Jehovah is fighting for the Israelites against us. Let's get out of here." But it was too late. This is when Jehovah told Moses to stretch his stick out over the Red Sea, as you saw in the picture. And when Moses did, the walls of the water began to come back and cover the Egyptians and their chariots. The whole army had followed the Israelites into the sea, and not one of the Egyptians got out alive. And not one of the Egyptians got out alive. How happy all God's people were to be saved. The man sang a song of thanks to Jehovah, saying, "Jehovah has won a glorious victory. He has thrown the horses and the riders into the sea." Moses' sister Miriam took her tambourine, and all the women followed her with their tambourines. And as they danced with joy, they sang the same song as the men were singing. Jehovah has won a glorious battle. He has thrown the horses and their riders into the sea. And that is the end of part 2. Part 3 is Deliverance from Egypt to Israel's first king. And that's another long part with a bunch of chapters. But yeah, nice. Thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.